Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today it is November 4th. It is 1 week after the surprise announcement of Loki. It is also 1 week after Charity Heroes. I'm actually back from a short vacation now. This is my first stream, and tonight I have something special. It is another special guest on my stream, and today I am proud to announce MartialBlack on my stream, and he is well aware of abilities of Spider-Man, which is one of my favorite heroes. So let's start it up. Welcome, MartialBlack. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Fine, fine. I'm good. Glad to have you here. So let's. We have about an hour, so let's start right away. Who are you, and where you from?
Marshall Black, from Charleston, South Carolina, and yeah.
That's about it. So what games have you played before Marvel Heroes?
I started off when I was in end of high school, beginning to college. Started playing Guild Wars, and then that led to World of Warcraft around the time Vanilla came out, and played that through the Burning Crusade. Played some pretty high end content with guilds like Premonition, and just kind of kind of playing a little too much in college, and failing a few classes because of it. But I had a great time playing WoW. It was fun. I don't think I don't think I'd put that much time into it again, but it was really nice playing at that level. And then after that, or kind of during that, I played ARPG games like Diablo 2,
Hmm.
Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, and then Diablo 3 came out, played that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Played it up until Marvel Heroes came out. Switched on over when I heard that David Brevik was making this game, so I'm a big fan of David Brevik, and came over here, and the rest is history.
All right. And why Marvel Heroes? Only because of Brevik, or is there more?
I mean, I've been a fan of comics when I was in high school. Actually, more on the DC side, but Marvel's great as well. And Spider-Man's always, I mean, Spider-Man's just kind of a iconic hero that everybody knows about, and
Hmm.
everybody knows at least the basic story to how he came about. So when you combine a game like when you combine a great ARPG from a creator that pretty much made one of the best games in the genre, um, I had to play it. So
All right. Yeah, Marvel Heroes. We all know it had a rough start, and we are currently in quite a good position. Asgard is on the way. Could you, in a few sentences, try to tell what your experience is with? I see you have Ultimate Pack, so you started pre-release, I think.
yes,
How has your ride been until this point?
um, it's been a ride. It was pretty rough at first. Anybody that was here especially if you were here before patch 1.2, um, you remember how difficult it was to play some of the higher end content.
Hmm.
Then it was tier 3 res. There was no tier 4. Limbo. Um, you basically could not stay alive very long against bosses. Everybody had to go range. The defense system was a flat rating, meaning it only took a certain amount of damage off the top of the abilities. So while that'd be fine for trash because they don't hit for much, you run into bosses that hit for thousands and you're only taking 80 damage off of it, which is negligible. So but then they switched to percent based, and from there it's been getting better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's every once in a while in patches there's maybe a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing going on, but in the end, forward progression is what's happening. So
Yeah. And have you always did you start out Spider-Man? Is it always been Spider-Man, or did you switch characters?
yeah, I started out with Spider-Man. I always like to focus on kind of one hero, especially when a game starts, and just learn that hero the best. I'm not really one that kind of jumps around on ults. It's the same way with other games. I don't know. I just rather be proficient in one than kind of be a jack of all trades for others. Now recently with the synergies, it's been forcing me to kind of learn other heroes as well, which is nice. There's nothing like learning kind of where your hero is, strengths and weaknesses wise, by playing other heroes. That'll definitely show you.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to the synergies later. One thing I wanted to ask you is Spider-Man has been one of the first to get his revamp on 1.4. They
Yes.
get the signature move at 30, and the ultimate actually moves to 52. What do you think is yeah? What do you think about that? What did it do to Spider-Man? Was it good or or a bad thing?
No, they definitely they increased. They didn't. He didn't get. I know they've been trying to not call it reworks if it's not a rework like Iron Man they call it a rework because almost all of his abilities were either had a visual effects change, a complete redesign, and then in addition some buffs. Spider-Man was more of a uh, he was I don't know what to call it. It wasn't a full rework. They added a couple abilities, and then they just kind of buffed a few, and that's what most of the new heroes are going to be getting. There's not going to be many reworks. There's going to be more of a kind of retuning to people's abilities and trees. But I mean he came out with the survivability increased the most between pre 1.4 and 1.4. The damage probably output potential increased by about 30 to 40%. Um, when you don't count Mots and Mandarins, Spider-Man is about fifth or sixth when it comes to single target DPS.
Hmm.
If you count Mots and Mandarins, which they're kind of broken, I'll explain on that later. He's number one right now with those two, just because Web Barrage benefits so much from those two items.
All right. So he's in a good spot currently.
Definitely, definitely.
All right. Um, yeah, we don't have that much time as I had before, so I think one thing, a final question before we go into the skills is what do you think of the coming Asgard and of the future of Marvel Heroes with the PvP?
Um, Asgard's really cool. I was there for AQ40. I remember farming all the mats and donations and just the whole server trying to unlock the instance, and it's really cool. It kind of brings the community together.
Hmm.
So I definitely like things like that. The four artifacts. I don't know if you jumped on the test center, but it definitely increases your build varieties as well as just your overall damage. I mean, you're equipping two more artifacts is pretty huge.
Yeah.
That with the new legendaries, there's a lot of potential coming. And then PvP is one of those things you got to realize it's going to be pretty rough at the start.
Yes.
Even with they're talking about 88% reduction in damage. Even with an 88% reduction in damage, I can do 6,000 DPS. So how many people? How much DPS or how much health do you have?
Yeah, I have like 11k at the moment, which is quite high.
So basically, if I can stun you with Amazing Smash for 4 seconds, that means all I need is 2 seconds to kill you. So
Yeah.
it's some of those. It's going to be warned when you get in there. Don't expect it to be perfect. Expect it to be kind of raw and pretty nasty at first. There's going to be some heroes that are just kind of raffle stomping other ones, and that's just how it's going to be until they balance it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just see that as a lot of fun. I mean, I laugh at that stuff, but yeah, yeah. If people expect a fully balanced game, that's never gonna happen. So,
Yeah.
all right. What I mostly do is I just open up the skill tree. So I'm gonna do that now as well, and we have our
Okay.
first tree. You have always three trees. Some people might still be new to this game, which is possible. It is like a little bit like the old Diablo 2 trees, where you have just three talent trees, and you can just switch and put points everywhere. Let's start with Crime Fighter. You have two basic strikes. You have your Spider Strike and your Spidey Pummel. Um, yeah, which one is best?
So for the people that are new to the game, before I explain these two, I need to explain something called suppression. Um, Suppression works where bosses are harder to crit and harder to dodge. It's a 40% reduction in your crit chance, and it's not additive, which means it doesn't just take away 40; it takes away 40% of it. So if you have 100% crit, then you really have 60% crit against a boss. And then the same with dodge, except it's 30% instead of 40. So the Spider Strike, the only time that Spider-Man uses his melee basics is on a high health target like a yellow or a boss.
Hmm.
So you don't really you're gonna get that suppression when you're fighting against them. So the crit rating that you get from Spider Strike isn't worth using on bosses and champions, and that goes into the second basic, which is it actually deals more damage against those ones you're going to be attacking. So out of his basics, the Spider Strike is just a kind of a subpar on every level.
Yeah. Do you remember when it unlocks Spidey Pummel?
What's that?
Do you remember when it unlocks? What level?
I don't know. I have it unlocked right now. I think it's like it used to be. I mean, it used to be like 20 something, but now I think it's like 30, maybe 32.
All right. Yeah.
But for leveling Spider Strike is more than enough. You're not worried about the min maxing until you kind of get to level 60 or at least 55.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, and also what I was thinking about earlier is that Spider-Man uses other abilities to clear these small mobs, and like you
Yep.
said, you use Spider Pummel basically against bosses. So then, yeah, then Spider Strike is always going to be inferior to Spidey Pummel, and yeah, and that percentage is really good. Could you tell me a little bit about Web Yank? It's a new skill, Web Yank and Amazing Uppercut. Are these viable? You use them?
Yeah. So Web Yank is a single target. Kind of like Scorpion, get over here move. It pulls them towards them and then punches them. There's no there's no stun to it. So in PvP, if they're kind of quick reaction, they can run out of it pretty quickly. But it does a pretty good bit of damage. It's got a 0.8 second cooldown, which means that it attacks about 1.2 attacks per second.
Hmm.
So when it comes to DPS, it's gonna lose out to Spidey Pummel, and it also loses out to Amazing Uppercut. Um, Amazing Uppercut is a single target spirit dump. It does a big chunk of damage. I mean, you're getting brutal strikes for like 70k to 80k with high level gear. The problem is that it's got a compared to like Black Panther's knockdown strike or Thing's Brickyard Headbutt, it has a pretty low damage coefficient.
Hmm.
It's got a damage coefficient of 1.12.
All right.
Um, so you're not gaining as much plus damage from gear as you would on other classes, and like with my current setup, it actually just barely beats Spidey Pummel in terms of DPS. Like if I'm there to spam it, it beats it by about 100 to 200. But the problem is that you have to invest 19 points into it just to get that DPS, and then also um, if you want to increase it with gear, you have to choose whether you want to do Spidey Pummel or Amazing Uppercut. So because it's such a small increase, Spidey Pummel's still the way to go.
All right. And if you could give an indication, what's your physical damage like now on your level
Yeah,
60 character?
in my setup, I am at 4783 physical damage, and then 3256 just for all of it. 3582 energy damage. The only energy ability is corrosive, but that gets a little boost from that.
All right. Cool. So it is good, but yeah, why use a spirit ability when you can use a non-spirit ability
Yep,
in the base?
exactly.
All right.
And it's faster, so you Spidey Pummel's faster, so you get more life on hit, more procs, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Web swing attack. Um, is it break free? Is it like a 1 point wonder, or is there more to it?
yeah, web swing attack is it's pretty much a 1 point wonder. It doesn't have the damage or the utility. Like it's a line attack, and it'll just it'll hit everything in the one line. So you can't really use it as an AoE to clear trash. Its scaling isn't as good as a single target ability. It is pretty fast, and it depends on how quickly or how far you move your mouse away on how fast it'll go. You can have it really close, and it'll kind of do just a small one, or you can have it far, and it'll go pretty far. Really, you just want the 1 point just for CC breaks. Some of those long stuns, like Gorgon's Petrify, or maybe Doom Stomp. Those are pretty nice. That's a pretty nice time to use it. But any more than 1 point would be a waste.
All right. Yeah, but we're just gonna go through all the skills. The Spider to the
No, go for it.
Fly
Yep.
is yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a passive one, but it gives you crit rating and brute strike rating, but also
Mhm.
50% more damage on webbed enemies on your melee strikes.
Yeah, so the big one with this is um yeah, you get so even with 1 point, you get that 50% damage increase to webbed enemies, which most of the time the enemies you're attacking um are gonna be webbed. They're gonna be webbed if you use web spray. Web spray is the primary web power you're gonna use as melee. And even as range, you'll use that, and then it'll put the web debuff, and then you'll get the melee